Hey friends, I'm excited to share this episode of On Your Mind with you. I spoke with Molly Morgan, who's the Texas State Director of Trust for Public Land, and I was blown away by the amount of data she shared connecting parks and green spaces to mental health of individuals and also our communities. I was also struck by how much emphasis Dallas and the state of Texas has put on bringing green spaces in for equitable access for all. This conversation really inspired me. We even get into practical tips for nature for mental health. So I can't wait to hear what you think.
Help people recognize, reframe, and reset.
Do you want to tell that story?
I'll let you tell that story.
Hence the On Your Mind podcast. Welcome to the On Your Mind podcast. I'm so excited today to introduce our special guest, Molly Morgan. She's the Texas State Director of the Trust for Public Land, and I loved reading her bio because she has some really incredible statistics about the changes she's been able to make in Dallas in her time working for TPL. So she's helped create 22 new parks and community schoolyards in Dallas, and she's helped improve Dallas's park score from 53% to 74% of residents being within a 10-minute walk of a park, which we'll talk about the mental health implications of that a little bit later. I know she's a fellow science lover. She's a landscape architect and has a lot of project management experience. She's also a mom, and she's really committed to this cause of health equity and community benefits for every single person in Dallas and in the state of Texas. Molly, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, let's dive into the link between nature, parks, and mental health. Why is this topic so important?
It's so important because it's something we often overlook, but I think that we live in an age where we're all stressed sometimes, and 20 minutes outside a day can significantly reduce your stress levels and reduce your cortisol, and we all deserve that. And more than that, we deserve a place to connect with our families, our friends, our neighbors in a way that is just for that connection, and we all get the benefits from that. And so I think that's what drives me and why our work is important, and why green space in general is important as we think about cities and communities and healthy neighborhoods.
I love that. How did you get into this work originally?
So actually, I completed my undergrad. I was a printmaker and had an art history major. I did some odd jobs around that, and I really found that I loved making art, but I really liked making it for myself. But I wanted to do something that was creative, that gave back. I had spent a ton of time outdoors as a kid. I went to University of Colorado Boulder for my undergrad. I didn't know it at the time, but I never lived more than a half mile away from a green space or trail. And so I looked into landscape architecture as a way that I could bring a design and creative background and deliver something that really people could benefit from. I thought really I was going to be a garden designer, or I really liked the idea of healing gardens and arboretums, but I fell in love with community work and public work when I was in grad school. And so I got to work with some firms and then work with TPL to deliver that kind of work. And it's still my favorite type of work to do, and I feel really lucky to get to do it.
Yeah, now the state of Texas gets to benefit from your passion for beauty and nature and making sure everyone has access to it. Can you tell us a little bit about your priorities at Trust for Public Land and kind of how you carry out this mission to make green space accessible?
Absolutely. So what I love about Trust for Public Land is our mission is to provide the benefits and joy of nature to everyone. And so whatever form that takes, and we do that in a lot of different ways. We do it through land conservation, through real estate, through park building, through advocacy. But something we're really focused on here in Dallas is the 10-minute walk to a park. The idea that we all have the most benefit if we can access a safe and usable green space within a 10-minute walk of our home. It increases the amount of usage we use, how much we get outside in nature, and the benefits, just like those mental health benefits that we can all have. And it's a super cost-effective way to do that. And so when I first started working at TPL, like you said, the city of Dallas was at 54% access, and now over 300,000 people in the city have access to a park trailer green space that didn't before. And there's still work to be done, but there's a lot more green here and a lot more people using those spaces, which I'm both proud of and feel lucky to be able to work on.
Yeah, it's such a cool, just visual, measurable way. And I love that you simplify this idea of bringing more green space and call it a park score. Like, can you walk 10 minutes to a park?
Yeah.
And we are so lucky. You mentioned your childhood spending time outside. I was the same way. We had a community pool a block from my house. Like, just all summer was outside and going to UC Boulder. And, you know, for us now to be within 5-7 minute walk of a little local park where our toddler can play. It makes such a difference in quality of life. What are some of the impacts you've seen? Can you tell us about a project that you've done for a certain community where you've seen it really make a difference?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that, you know, something that is really important to our work at Trust for Public Land is how much community engagement we do and how much design work we do to make sure the green spaces match the needs of the people who are living in those neighborhoods. And so just generally, the most rewarding thing for me is that we're an organization we're flexible to deliver what communities need, because people can't get those benefits if they're not going to use the space or they don't see themselves in the space. And so, you know, I loved the partnership with Texas Trees Foundation on the Cool School Community Park program. We got to work with communities and with that foundation to work on parks and green spaces and really connect people with their schoolyard, which they might not have known before that they could use as a park space. And then a passion project for me is the 5 Mile Creek Greenbelt and South Oak Cliff Renaissance Park, which we opened in 2021. And you know, from a mental health standpoint, I think that, you know, that we've been able to show some crime reduction around the area, and there is a lot of positive momentum in that community. That's not just the park, it's other groups too, which is why it's called South Oak Cliff Renaissance Park. And all those benefits directly benefit that community, but, you know, they benefited me getting to work on it too. And so that's a favorite project of mine.
Those are awesome stories. And just it's so fascinating to me. You can see things like crime rate reduction, and that goes directly to mental health. And also, it sounds like feeling a sense of ownership around the space. You're talking about how you involve the communities, and I'm hearing you got something out of it just being part of the project. So I think one of the things we struggle with often in 2025 is that community connection, how we relate to each other face to face in person. And what a beautiful example of a space like a park that can be that gathering space for communities and feeling that strength and social ties. Well, I'm excited to get a little bit more into some of the mental health benefits of parks. So let's do that after the break.
Perfect. Thank you.
Don't forget to like and subscribe to my YouTube page at Dorsey Standish for all episodes of On Your Mind. And follow me on social media at Dorsey Standish. So, Molly, I'm imagining our busy listener audience here thinking, I have so much on my plate between work and home and all the things. And this nature stuff, parks, okay, it sounds like it'd be nice to have, but why is this a must-have? Like, tell me more about some of the mental health benefits and the importance of having parks and green spaces.
Totally. There are real benefits to having usable green spaces near people's homes, and ones that people interact with. And some of the, you know, top research shows that even children who have access and use a green space do better on test scores at school. There is a clinical reduction in ADHD symptoms. You know, we talked a little bit earlier about the cortisol reduction, but that's really important for our overall health, is to that stress is not just, I need to tough it out, or, you know, everybody is stressed. That can impact your health. And simply walking outside your home to a green space, whether it's a park, a school, a trail, can lower that. And that's an important metric. You know, there's other research about why it's important. We're obviously in a hot place.
Yeah.
And, you know, cardiac incidences increase with heat. And so having more trees and more green spaces in communities helps people not have as many of those kind of sudden heat increases, what we call the urban heat island, in areas where there's a lot of concrete. And, you know, even back to children, like, we can show, there's research that shows a reduction in mental health outcomes in adolescence and adulthood for children who simply grow up with a green space. in their neighborhood. And so, there are so many important things to address making communities healthier, stronger, more connected. But parks it's an easy one, right? It's affordable. It's free. We can provide a space that all you have to do to realize some of these, especially the mental health benefits, is just go. Mm-hmm. And I think that I am still reminded of that. We talked about having a toddler, and it's helpful to her too. I can see when emotions are high, the kind of how just being outside lets that go. And so, the last really big benefit is that the Surgeon General a few years ago talked about how there's been a loneliness epidemic since COVID, and it can be up, the equivalent of smoke for your health of smoking up to 15 cigarettes a day. Mm-hmm. And parks are an equalizer. They're a place where you can meet your neighbors, where you might meet a parent who you don't know in your neighborhood because you're both at the playground, or you walk past the same dog owner several times and eventually strike up a conversation. They're designed to bring people together around a positive activity. And so that also has real outcomes for communities too.
I love that. I have a friend in town this weekend that we met at the park. She's since moved away from Dallas, but random park meeting a few years ago. We have kids the same age. She just had a baby. I'm about to have a baby. And we are just going through life together and have stayed close friends just from meeting at our local park. So I love that you bring that up. And I also noticed you just brought up COVID, which I'm curious. I know a lot of our relationships with nature and being outside changed during COVID. How has that impacted your work at all?
I think COVID really opened a lot of people's eyes to what being outside can do. When we were all stuck inside, when a lot of places weren't open, what we consider our third places, right? Not our home, not our work, but where we really convene with others. Those weren't open anymore. And so parks really became that for a lot of people. And I think that there's still some people who feel like parks are nice to have, but I think that COVID really opened a lot of people's eyes to the benefits they can provide, and also made people a lot more familiar with just being outside, that, you don't have to be a backpacker. You don't have to be outdoorsy, right? You could just take a walk. And if you want to extend up to a more outdoorsy experience, of course you can. But, everybody can benefit.
I love that. Yeah. During COVID, we did recovery meetings outside. We did birthday parties outside. Yeah. We did everything. I would do all my calls walking. I bought this crazy contraption to hold my phone here so I could do a video call.
That's awesome.
And walk around the greenery in the neighborhood, which is not quite a park, but seeing a tree, right? Even I think parks are nice, but I know with attention restoration theory, for example, that even looking at a picture of nature can help restore our ability to pay attention and help us calm down. So we might even think about micro green spaces or bringing greenery inside and kind of using this theme that you're sharing of how nature can be a stress reduction tool, a performance tool. It can help kids. And how do we continue to infuse our lives with greenery?
Yeah. I mean, right, just looking at a green space or a nature image can help people recover faster in the hospital too. So, I mean, there's so many benefits. And yes, I have a screensaver of, my national forest, landscapes for that same reason, because if I'm, that's what I want to look at when I'm stressed.
Mm-hmm. I love that so much. The last point that I want to highlight in terms of some of the health benefits of green spaces is something you talk about at TPL, which is that your zip code is more predictive of public health than genetic code. Can you share a little bit more about that?
Yeah, I mean, the number one determinant of your health is where you were born and where you live. And in Dallas, there's nearly a 20-year gap in life expectancy between the zip codes who have the highest life expectancy and the lowest. Wow. And we can correlate some of these things. Green space affects some of the tenets of, the determinants of your health. And we can see areas where people don't have a green space. There is less vegetation in neighborhoods, and overlap it with these areas that have a lower life expectancy. There are a lot of things that go into that. But, something I do to think about, what is possible for me. And when I am worried maybe about some of these things is, what can I achieve? And our job at TPL is to help achieve the green space part. Mm-hmm. That's something that we can do and we can help with, and will affect people's quality of life.
Yeah, I love that promoting equity through parks and green spaces. And you mentioned, sometimes issues in our world today feel so overwhelming, but you can focus in on one specific aspect that you at TPL especially have the ability to influence and try to make all of our spaces here in Dallas and in Texas greener, more beautiful, and support the life expectancy, the well-being of all of the inhabitants.
Thank you. That's the goal. I mean, I think that when I think about things that most people makes them happy, right? Or a memory that you have with somebody. I think most of us have an experience outside, whether it's a park or not, whether it's a birthday party in a yard. And everybody deserves to have access to those type of spaces across the board. And so we still got some work to do, but Dallas has made huge strides at increasing that number for its residents. And, I think it shows.
Yeah, you're so right, Molly, as I'm hearing you say everyone has a good memory outside, that when we teach guided meditations in our mastermind classes, without a doubt, the nature visualizations are everybody's favorite. Most people go to the beach, but some people do go to parks or, to the mountains or greenery. But there's nothing like kind of, traveling back in your mind or having that positive memory. And I, will often use the words of the Dalai Lama that we're human beings, not human doings. Mm-hmm. And there's something beautiful about being in nature that reconnects us with nature's pace, right? Yeah. Nature doesn't hurry, but everything gets accomplished. Like, we are naturally human beings when we're out in that beautiful natural environment.
Yeah. And I love that there's a scale too, right? Like, if your everyday need is like me with my 3-year-old, we're going to our local neighborhood park and we're playing on the playground and running around and experiencing nature that way. But, I'm excited about some of our work at TPL on some bigger sites too, like a project we're working on in southern Dallas that really has the opportunity to be a space for forest bathing, for meditation, for getting that stress reduction that we all deserve. And that's also what the community wanted for the space. So I'm excited about that.
Forest bathing in Dallas.
I know.
Wait, that's amazing. Let's take a break. And when we come back, I want to talk more specific, actionable green space for mental health tips everyone can use.
Totally. Thank you.
To learn more about the incredible work of the Trust for Public Land, check out their website at tpl.org. And make sure you follow them on Instagram at Trust for Public Land. So, Molly, for people who are inspired by our conversation today and thinking, okay, you got me, green space, going to a park, this is a must-have, not just a nice-to-have in my life. Where would you suggest people start if they're serious about seeing some of these mental health benefits for themselves and their families?
The easiest place to start is just right outside your home. Mm-hmm. And depending on, where you live and how you feel about that. But, I've worked in this space for nearly a decade. But my perspective was reopened when my daughter was born. I was, dealing with being a new parent. I was stressed. I know that other people have experienced that also, but everybody experiences stress. And I was reminded to just go outside, right? And at first it started by us just going to our yard and my little newborn baby looking at the leaves, and then that progressed back into a walk, and then eventually a walk to our local park, which is a half mile from our home. And so, everybody deserves that, and that's what kind of keeps me thinking, but that it can be as simple as just going outside. It'd be great if you took a walk. It'd be great if you, spent time in nature however you want to. But one of my favorite things to do outside is picnicking. That's my favorite thing to do at White Rock Lake. I've got my little stroller wagon. I've got a little cooler for cold drinks and a blanket. And I love to just be outside in that way. And so, it doesn't need to be high stakes. Whether it's just walking outside and seeing nature and sitting, or it is doing whatever activity is exciting to you to do, I think that is a great first step and sort of opens this world of other things that are happening in green spaces. I also think if there's a green space that you want to check out, and even if it's not your local park, is to go the places that you're interested in and feel comfortable and want to experience. If you've never been to Clyde Warren Park and, that playground there is awesome and there's always so much activity happening. maybe you go there and you experience that, and then think about the things you really liked doing there and bring that to your local space. But I would say that the most benefit is just from getting out there.
Mm-hmm. Starting small. Like,
Yeah.
listeners hear me harp on this all the time. I started with 1 minute a day of mindfulness, right? Like,
Yeah.
you just got to literally walk outside your door.
Yeah.
Just put your feet in the grass, let the kids look at the leaves or the trees. And I love how you mentioned that oftentimes naturally just getting outside makes you want to, garden or go on that walk, or, I guess I could put a sprinkler here and we could play with it. But that doesn't happen when we're sitting inside, right? It happens when we're outside and being inspired by those outdoor spaces. And then it sounds like also having a wish list of places, maybe a little further away, but that excite you in some way that you want to take your family to have an experience, even if it's 30 minutes the other side of town, a different kind of park that would be exciting.
Yeah, I think so. We do that with my daughter because we like looking at all the different playgrounds, and I obviously work in park space, but, do it is exciting, and it doesn't need to feel like exercise or a chore. And if it does, maybe there's something else outside that feels good. And, the other thing people often ask me is, what do me and my daughter do outside? Like, what activity do we do? And trust me, I've tried to direct or us figure out what that is. But what my daughter likes to do is pick up different kinds of acorns. Mm-hmm. And I didn't come up with that. It was something that she just likes doing, and now it's a thing for us. So I would say, try to have especially if you're with a little one, try not to have too many expectations that whatever happens there is going to be good, and it's going to be good for your health regardless.
Yeah, I love that reminder that it's good for your health. Oftentimes being with our little ones or slowing down in nature is a natural opportunity to practice mindfulness, that
Absolutely.
Kind, curious attention. And my little one loves to look at bugs and just could stare all day.
Same.
Stare all day at the bugs, wants to, why is it up like that? Wants to ask so many questions. And it really connects me with a sense of awe that I think nature can also get us in touch with.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head, which is, sometimes like meditation or moving into something like that is so important, but it can feel hard if you haven't done it, right? Like getting to a higher number piece, and sometimes having that active piece of just looking around outside or whatever your kid is interested in and seeing that through their eyes. You might not even know that it's mindful, right? And that's sort of the beauty of it.
Mm-hmm. I heard you mention early on in our conversation this idea of 20 minutes a day. Is that something you would advise people to aim towards, work towards, whether it's sitting in their yard? I know even if you're looking at a screen, it's still helpful to be outside. Like, you can work outside, or you could take that walk. Is that kind of what you would advise? Try to get 20 minutes a day and then have maybe one longer excursion on the weekends? Or what's a good guide?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that 20 minutes a day is a good step to aim for. If that feels too much, a few days a week is great. But trying to be outside, or at the very least visualizing nature or seeing a nature experience for 20 minutes really allows you to get that stress release benefit. And you will also feel it. You will be outside, and maybe you're still, I'm speaking from my own experience, still thinking through my list, still thinking, okay, I got to go to the grocery store after this, or I got an email I need to answer. But just being outside for 20 minutes, that sort of can wash away. And so it used to be a morning activity for me, but now it's more an afternoon or evening activity so that I can be more present. And so I would recommend people trying to get that 20 minutes, whether it's one day, a few days, or every day. But if you can get up to every day, you will really feel it.
I love that. And yes, the endless to-do list, the what am I going to do next? It's so relatable, but there is something about being outside that can totally shift. I want to ask you one final question, which is a little bit of a tangent. What I've been most inspired by in our conversation is how you took something that is a passion of yours that you were inspired by, and you're thinking, how can I bring this to more people and use parks and green spaces as a tool for equity and community building and all these changes I want to see in the world? What would you say to folks out there who, whether they're inspired by more nature spaces or something else, what would you say to folks who are wanting, like you, to follow their passion, but maybe need some guidance or encouragement about how to take those first steps to do that?
Well, I guess my first piece of advice is to not be afraid to start. whether it is thinking about what you personally can do, reaching out to somebody who is doing the kind of work that you're inspired by. All of us in these spaces are here because it's a passion for us and we love working on it. And I'm constantly inspired by what other people are doing in the space also. So I think, to really think about what's the thing that you can affect or want to affect, and what skills do you have to make it happen. And that skill could just be passion. And we'll all live in a better place if, more people or people who want to feel good and confident about doing that. And so I think that there's a lot of things that would be better and can be better by more people being innovative, more people thinking mindfully about what the solution is. And so my advice would be just to do it and don't be afraid to miss, right?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it'll take a few things to figure out how you got there. Certainly for me, it did. This was not my first career path. So to stay the course, and that you will find people who will support you and have really a lot of the same vision as you too.
I love that. Thank you so much, Molly. Okay, so y'all heard it. You got to start now. You got to step outside, get your feet on the grass. You got to do one thing that inspires you that will make the world a better place in a small way. You got to not be afraid to fail or kind of figure out along the way, which you've heard me talk about my journey and how hard it was to figure out how to make a living doing the work that I care about. Mm-hmm. But I love what you just said, Molly, which is you'll find people who support you in that mission. And I think for me, when I meet somebody, like just last week, I got a message on LinkedIn about somebody who also works at Texas Instruments like I did, who listens to my podcast. I was like, that is so cool. You just never know who you're talking to, who you'll connect with, what kind of like-minded people you're inspiring, whether it's your own kids or neighbors who see you doing something. That's what life is all about, is how we connect with others. And I love the conversation you brought to us today about how green spaces can be those connectors, those great equalizers, and support all of our mental health.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been a pleasure to talk about this stuff. And, I'm just inspired by, same thing, the number of stories that I hear from people who have these same experiences or similar ones, and how we can keep telling that story so other people can experience that too. So thank you for all you're doing.
Yes, thank you.
If you'd like to learn more about how to book Dorsey Standish for a speaking engagement or company training, you can learn more at dorseystandish.com.